So I belatedly realized there was something I could do to improve the Modern Industrialization nuclear reactor from last time that I just completely glossed over. Because there's a recipe that I had forgotten about where you take the Modern Industrialization nuke and you convert it into the nuke from Tech Reborn, and then you put it on the ground and you give it a redstone signal. There we go. Much improved. Because we believe in destructive renovations in another episode of Statech Industry. Now, obviously, I'm not crazy enough to nuke my own base. At least, not yet. We aren't done with the pack yet. This isn't my way of, like, quietly quitting the pack, or very noisily, I guess. But I do have something else planned. I would like to dedicate this moment to Lashmak. Gotta keep those villagers in line, right? Alright, so now that we've wrecked our sightlines from the base here pretty much forever now, right? We should probably get a jog on since we're actually getting close to the end of the pack and we're pretty close to finally finishing up the nuclear age here. It looks like we have quite a bit left, but the reality is we mostly need to make two materials, tungstensteel ingots and superconductor dust. And once we get those done, we can pretty much jog straight into making the quantum circuit and all of its subcomponents. It's a bit more complicated than that, but this is still a pretty easy jog through where we need to get to, so we don't have a whole lot left to do here. Assuming I haven't missed something very, very obvious when I looked through this earlier today. But tungsteel is just tungsten combined with steel. No real big surprises here, done the normal way through a electric blast furnace and cooled down in a vacuum freezer, so no real surprises there. And superconductor dust is just made up of yttrium dust, which we haven't used yet, but comes from moissanite, where we were getting all our other materials from. Annealed copper dust, which we have, iridium dust, which we have, and neodymium dust, which is the same source as the yttrium. Our biggest obstacle is just going to be making sure we keep enough of those dusts in stock and that aren't being used elsewhere so that we actually have some to use. So I guess we just need to bang on and make those machines real fast, huh?
I've always admired those who just do it and they conquered their fears. They fall back down and they keep getting up and they try to steer clear. I'm afraid, I'll admit, what if I'm stuck in my mind? I'm not great, neither rich, but will you stay here by my side? All the good times turn into memories and the revelry goes on. Let's have a good time, night of the century. Our best days can't be done. All the good times turn into memories and the revelry goes on. Let's have a good time, night of the century. Our best days can't be done. Best days can't be
All right, and with that, we actually got a few extra steps made to get us going to the next step here, because I actually made everything up through the tungsten steel coils, because these allow blast furnaces to take more power, but they only really have the one recipe for the superconductor hot ingot. So I felt it was good to probably bring this up right now. It also requires molten nether stars. So I guess it's good that I started processing that a while back, but none of this is up to speed yet. We do need 16 of these coils just to get started on this, so it might be a little bit here. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, even with a bunch of turbo upgrades in, this is a slow recipe to make the tungsten steel ingots because it's 3 minutes per ingot by default. You know, I probably need to take this all the way up to 1024, don't I? Of course, that means I'm probably going to need to make another dragon egg. Energy siphon, and that requires more circuits that I'm desperately running out of right now. Bleh. Because right now you see I have a whole lot of nothing built because I've got everything backfilling right now still, because I didn't think to leave this running prior to starting this episode up. Because we are still doing things like backfilling processing units because I increased the buffers to get ready for the next tier. Listen, okay, I have done smarter things. I don't know why I didn't leave it running. This is kind of on me, but we don't need a whole lot just to get this moving forward at least. I really need to figure out what my blockers on things like the diodes and the transistors actually are. I mean, oh, I was expecting it to be the silicon, not the steel. This is actually a problem since this is required for tungsten steel. Uh-oh. I swear I had something like 70,000 steel at one point. It looks like it all got burned down. That seems problematic, huh? Well, we've got uncooked steel dust going on. Oh, the blast furnace is not overclocked at all. Let's max that out, huh? And so we at least get it rolling back in. And let's go take a look at the power to make sure we didn't run out. It looks like the whole bank is moving just fine, though. Uh-oh. Yeah, that seems like a problem. That's probably going to mess up this episode. Hooray! At least I budgeted a couple days to make this one, just in case. Woohoo! Well, the good news is we only need a couple more coils to move forward, and there's enough steel inside the blast furnace right now, I believe, to get the last couple pieces of this done. I hope, at least. I'm wondering if it was the uncooked steel dust. Maybe I need to go change the recipe down on that blast furnace over there. Because there is an alternate recipe that uses 3 refined iron ingots and a carbon dust to make steel, although carbon's one of my bottlenecks for making silicon right now, so I don't really know if I want to introduce carbon into this. Although I could be making more carbon by centrifuging ashes, which you get from dark ashes or tuff, which tuff creates both of them. So with a couple centrifuges, we could have more coming in, but I'd have to have a source of tuff. And the only source of tuff is the steam quarry that I'm not using, the one with the copper drill. The rate on it's not bad, but I don't really want to set up another quarry. So, especially one that's of limited use. Maybe I just need to set up a secondary processing for coal dust into carbon, so there's more than one going. Although I think I already set up 2. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like hunting down the machines right now to make sure, because that silicon wasn't the issue anyways. So I think we just need to let that blast furnace come back up to speed, and then, you know what, maybe it is the steel dust. Maybe I do need to go. Well, it seems to be keeping supplied, so I'm not entirely certain what happened there. That's a little worrying. Oh, iron's the problem. Yeah, man, this is a rabbit hole that I wasn't expecting, so that's probably just not being macerated fast enough. Or is it being, Right, I'm an idiot. I forgot I was centrifuging for this. Ooh, yuck. Well, at least this is something we can solve with upgrades, at least partially. Hopefully this will speed it up enough that it keeps up. Yeah, that seems to be going significantly faster now. Now I just have to hope that I have enough power, but it looks like the battery's keeping up, so these 2 are providing enough. Oh, now it might not be extracting it fast enough, though. We need to do something about that, too. That's at least easy to fix. Okay, now it looks like we're keeping up. So, yeah, you change a couple things, you increase the throughputs on others, and all of a sudden you find out you have bottlenecks at the bottom still. This is how my last couple of weeks have been in general with this pack, folks. It's just been constant adding turbo upgrades to everything and then finding out that something further down the chain is busted. That's at least burned some time while we're waiting on the tungsten steel coils. You know what, while we're waiting for the other coils, let's go make a large steam turbine or 2 to use the steam from the nuclear reactor to hopefully give us some power for this bank of electric blast furnaces in the future, and get started on doing a P2P pipe for power, because this is pretty straightforward to put together. Alright, so the good news is this produces a lot of power. I did have to add those spikes to the fluid pipe because an exporter wasn't getting steam out fast enough to keep this filled up, but this does as long as I have at least this much cable. Maybe a bit less, I don't know. The problem is over here. We have an EV storage unit, which is all fine and dandy, tons and tons of power in it, yeah. And then right where there should be an energy P2P, we have a problem. Because we need the EU P2P, which can only be done with a superconductor cable, which requires us to get to the point where we have superconductor wire as well as cooling cells. Now, the cooling cells aren't that hard, but we are going to get to that in a little bit. So I guess this is on hold for a few minutes while we go take care of the tungsten steel blast furnace and go get that set up. On the upside, at least, I didn't go try to do an EU P2P network prior to this, and had been horribly disappointed like if I'd done it months ago, because this would have been a long wait. Otherwise, instead of tripping across it literally while I'm setting this up. Now the question is, why isn't this going? Oh, because it needs overclockers in it. Okay, I can do that. Oh, and there we go. I have no clue if that was the right number or not, but we have our 512. I guess that's probably right on the money, huh? This is also slow, but that's okay. Although between these 2, I might now be having a power problem. Oh no, this isn't even the ballpark of a power problem. Oh, because it lost its overclock. Oh right, because this was relying on steel and I must have run out. But now the important part is we have this superconductor hot ingot done and we just need to go cool it. All right, so with the superconductor ingot in hand, we're good to go, right? There can't possibly be any more catches at all in this, correct? Yeah, not so fast. So we're going to need the superconductor cable in general, as well as the cooling cell that it takes to make it. This is involved with the circuit as well. This part doesn't look too bad. The wire is just done the normal way with a plate made from an ingot. Easy peasy. The pain comes in with the cooling cell, because the cooling cell requires two things we haven't done before. One, cryo fluid. This one, thankfully, we've already got argon coming in so we can make the cryo fluid. We also have some helium, although not a ton. This uses small amounts at a time to make a relatively small amount of cryo fluid. This part, probably okay. What's less okay are these small heat exchangers, and this is going to be a massive ongoing pain going forward, because like I said, we need these to make the circuits. And these are very, very, very expensive because those use 4 advanced pumps each. So I guess let me get working on processing for those. And I'm not going to lie, this is going to cripple my supplies as if they aren't already. Yeah, you, the highly advanced machine hull, you're the one I'm talking to because we don't have any processing units now because of you. Okay, so most of this is pretty straightforward, although I did run into one issue with the cooling cell. If we come back up to look at its assembler, you see how I have 4 small heat exchangers in here? For some reason, even though these claim they can stack to 64, they aren't actually, so I added 2 more so that it, well, apparently wasn't fast enough to keep with the overclock because it just bombed out again, apparently. But that was the only way I could keep it moving forward, was to slot other ones in here. If anyone knows a better way of handling that, please let me know, because that seems really clunky and busted. Anyhow, the important part is now that we have that, we can do one more assembler to actually make the cable that we need. And now we finally have the superconductor cable that we need so that we can throw the 2 P2P tunnels down and turn them into EU P2Ps. Although I just realized I actually need a third one. Fine. But with this, we should now be able to transmit all over our base. And here's the part where I hope that it can actually pull off the side like that. We'll find out in a little bit here. Since we have to go hook this up somewhere on our block here, doesn't matter. And now, assuming I haven't screwed this up, I should be able to unplug this, find a better angle, somehow get that back on there, set it to the right channel, and plug it in, and we should now be getting power. No, we are draining power very quickly. I screwed something up. All right, so in disclosure, it's the next day for me. I had to go do a bunch of digging on this. And yes, that's a second steam turbine back there. Because I got caught by surprise by a couple things. Part of it, partially because I've never actually used energy P2P stuff before from Applied Energistics. And I didn't quite know how they worked, and now I've got a bunch better ideas. So to show you the first problem, while I made the EU P2P tunnel, this can only be used with the superconductor tier from Modern Industrialization. There is instead an energy P2P tier that can be done with pretty much any other energy source, including my nanosaber, which can be used to interact with EV and below power and does not require transformers to transmit back. The trick, however, if we put it on here, is that you can't really connect Modern Industrialization cables to it. This doesn't count as a power source at all. You have to bridge it through a storage unit or a transformer or something else that accepts power. The other part that I screwed up was where it came to linking it. And you have to link the input side first and then go link the controller and then any other output sources you need to get them to talk to each other. My issues were a combination of doing this and trying to connect them with cables. So I was running into multiple different issues and it was making it look like the whole thing was a problem. So now I've got it all set up properly here, feeding into this HV storage unit, pulling in EV power and dumping out HV straight into this with no real issues, where I'm running a cable down all the way down here to power this whole trunk. And as you can see, it's only using 1.3K because I've kind of juiced a couple of these blast furnaces to make them go faster. But I didn't just stop there because we have a good thing going now, and I have more power than I know what to do with because I have infinite steam, basically. So I did this to a large chunk of my base, including the blast furnaces back here, because I wanted some of these to go fast. Fast enough that these actually maxed out this canthal cable here, and I had to split it and put another one over here instead, because both of these are currently running at about 7K total right now. Because I bumped some of the more problematic machines up to about 1K or maybe a little bit lower, like the ones doing silicon right here. And I also ran out of steel completely. And not just steel, but also the stainless steel. And the annealed copper, which I need to make advanced motors with, but this has been rebuilt now that I've got some of that stocked back up. So yeah, large chunks of my base are now cleaned up power-wise. We're now actually running off the nuclear reactor that I said I wasn't going to use. I ran cables through most of this and split it off onto its own sets of batteries like this over here. And we are mostly, but not completely, off of wireless power. There are some parts of my base that I haven't swapped the power on yet, and I will possibly get around to it at some point. But it's a lot less critical now. I did, however, have to add that second steam turbine because I was starting to run out of power, mostly due to the blast furnaces, but we still have completely maxed out steam here, which is why I left space down there and let it set up a line as if I was going to run multiple steam turbines back here because we still have room for a couple more. Although I did have to make these fluid pipes bigger to accommodate the amount of steam being passed through, and I'll probably have to wrap them even higher if I add the next couple more down here if I end up needing them. Honestly, I don't know how much steam that nuclear reactor is actually producing, nor do I know how much power these steam turbines are producing, because neither of them say what they do. So we're going to have to play it by ear, but so far I do not have a power problem anymore. I do, however, still have a pretty bad resource problem where I'm continually finding new bottlenecks to try to shore up, but as you can see, these still aren't moving very fast. But right now, I do know what that problem is because it's these inductors right here, because the inductors use steel rods, which require ingots, which require plates. This appears to be speeding back up, which means I must have backfilled enough ingots, which means I may have maxed out the plates, which means I should probably overclock this again. Well, it doesn't look like the plates are actually maxed out, so I'm probably going to run out of ingots again here shortly, because yeah, we don't have any, despite the fact that they are just speeding in very, very quickly right now. But this is how the last couple of weeks with this pack have been for me, where I'm just constantly upgrading machines and finding the holes and speeding things up and finding new holes and speeding things up more and more. And it's just been nonstop, although the silicon and the carbon have been just more or less constant problems this whole time. So it's kind of nice that steel's the current problem because that's at least new, I guess. Possibly, sort of. We're waiting for things to max out now so that I can get things back under control. But, well, we do have an episode to finish. And to finish this episode, I had wanted to make these. Thankfully, we've already got the cooling cells made and mostly maxed out. We just need the qubits and the quantum circuit boards. The qubits also require cryofluid, so this might be a bit of a pain. And tritium, which thankfully we have. None of the rest of this is scary and is stuff we have on hand. This is just expensive to make, mostly because of the cryofluid, which we probably need to speed up if we can. The quantum circuit board, however, introduces a couple new hitches. One, it requires plutonium batteries, which thankfully are just batteries that require plutonium, and we have some of that on hand. Because I did limit it to retain some dust because I knew we were going to have to do this. 2, it requires helium-3, and this is where we might have a problem. Because helium-3 is made a couple of ways, but only one of them is good. We can take a bucket of helium and turn it into 5 millibuckets of helium-3. We can take some moon sand, a bunch of it, and turn it into 1 millibucket of helium-3. Or we can take ice shards and turn them into 100 millibuckets. Now, ice shards come from the moon and other places in ore format, and we do have over 2,000 of them, so this might last us a bit. We don't have a way to get these back. The real question is how much of this are we actually going to need? Because we can venture over to the space probe launcher, which needs to be in space on a space station. But the space probes are really, really, really expensive. And that's ignoring all of these other materials here. Just the processing units are awful. And while this makes 4 to get us all of the ores from outer space, this has a 75% consumption chance, which means this is a 3 out of 4 chance this will just straight up get destroyed every time we use these. And with as expensive as they are, I kind of don't want to use them at this point if we don't need to. I can always go move my quarries on the moon to try to go get some more pretty quickly, so I'm not going to immediately worry about this. Instead, I guess let's just get this propped up to process small amounts of this, and see how long this lasts for. Oh, and I should note, I also changed this to be a P2P tunnel as well for energy, and I just ran a bunch of wireless ones here because I don't have room on here to put the Canthal energy cables along the bank. But this at least is easy, I guess we just need to see how long this will last for. Although I've just now realized that the tritium is probably going to be a problem for making the qubits because it's all sitting in here with the nukes and I've only got 7,000 of it and we're only making it one at a time here, and I do have it fairly upgraded. We're consuming 512 right now and that's all we're making. So I'm going to go set up an assembler for it upstairs, but I think I'm going to have to steal buckets from down here just to get the first couple made so that we can get progress forward. Yeah, I'd better actually do that right now while I'm thinking about it. It's not like I need nukes right immediately anyways. Although I'm going to have to set up an entangled tank that's going to eat up another 16,000 just in storage there, but I guess it'll end up all in the assembler anyways. All right, coming back into here, we now have the quantum circuit board being made, the plutonium batteries, although we seem to be short on plutonium dust right now, the qubits, which, well, you know, we're already short on tritium, so that's a problem, but we also need for tungstensteel to backfill, but we have some in storage now, which leaves us setting up the quantum circuit. And I'm realizing I was setting this up, but we're not going to do that. But we are going to super limit this down because this is very, very expensive. I mean, it's basically the same problem as the last one, the process unit, but exponentially worse. So we'll get these stacking up in storage. We'll get a stack of 64, but I hopefully will never need more than that. But there we go. The first one's being made, but this is not the end of the chapter as we need it for right now. We'll get this started though, so we can go put it in storage, because while this finishes this up and gets us to the quantum age, we still have the quantum machine hull. And I removed that assembler because I'm going to do this a bit differently, because this bad boy, it hurts to make. It just does. But you'll notice that the recipe is the same between crafting and the assembler. And frankly, this isn't used in all that much. There's only 8 recipes total, and they're mostly singular things like the fusion reactor. And there might be a couple things we might need to do in assemblers later, but we will address that when we get there. And instead, given the cost of this, I'm going to make this an on-demand recipe down in my AA2 lab, which, you know, thankfully does not even require an assembler, so this will actually make at a reasonable speed in a molecular assembler. You know, after we find the quantum circuit at home, and I am very quickly running out of space, I guess we'll put it above the digital circuit here, though. And now, assuming we're not missing, of course, we're missing plutonium batteries and the quantum machine casing. Yeah, I just spaced on actually making. This is just another molecular assembler recipe, so that part's simple enough. But we're going to have to come up here and poach all the plutonium batteries and limit this down to like 8 for now. But there, now we should be able to assemble this, and there it goes. And just as quickly, finished. And slam back into storage. Oh, speaking of, I didn't go over this or these. So I put the everlasting beef away for the time being, and I've just been making all sorts of different things to eat, because I've realized we've been completely forgetting this whole world of food chapter, which is 15 billion different entries here, which I would like to mostly fill out if I can. Although there's this section right here, which is all spectrum stuff, and I don't have any of the recipes for. I have no clue what I'm even missing there. That pretty much gels with my whole Spectrum experience so far, though, doesn't it? That said, I should also probably come in here and check out what my Chapter 6 reward is in Mjolnir. Well then, and let's see what we get. Quantum circuits. Well, I guess I deserved that, huh? Fine, let's go mash the rest of the buttons and get all of the rest of our rewards too, huh? Well, I'm not seeing anything really too exciting here other than a whole bunch of legendary coins and a bunch of analog circuits that I don't really need. We did get some free plutonium and some free rods that we can go chew up. Can't always win them, can we? Anyhow, I hope you found this episode interesting and entertaining. Please consider like or subscribe if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.